For 6 episodes of Survivor 49, one player didn't exist. They were a ghost. A background extra who just happened to be on the tribe mat. And then in episode 7, they weren't just a player. They were the main character. This wasn't a late bloomer edit. This was a deliberate act of narrative suppression. The Survivor production team actively purpled Sophie S for nearly half the game. Why? To solve a problem they created. They cast 2 people with the same name. Today, we're not just analyzing a game. We're analyzing the edit. I'm going to prove to you that producers hid Yellow Sophie until the merge, and in doing so, they revealed their hand. This is the story of the Survivor 49 editorial cover-up, and it changes how you should watch the rest of this season. Let's rewind to day 1. The Survivor 49 cast is announced. The superfans immediately spot the issue: Sophie B and Sophie S. The community predicted this. It's a classic Survivor production dilemma. Casual viewers, the millions who tune in on Wednesday night, can barely keep 18 names straight. 2 players with the same phonetic name? It's narrative poison. So, production had a choice. They could lean into it. They could make it a bit. Have Jeff clearly differentiate them from the jump. Or, they could choose one. And they chose. From episode 1, the narrative focused almost exclusively on Sophie B. She was given the story. She had alliances, she had confessionals, she was established as a person in the game. And Sophie S? Nothing. For 6 full episodes. 0 confessionals. 0 strategic insight. She wasn't just under the radar, UTR. She was invisible. This is what the fan community calls a purple edit, named after Purple Kelly from Survivor, Nicaragua. A player so invisible she literally blended into the background until she quit. But here's the critical difference. Kelly was allegedly purpled as a punishment for quitting. Sophie S was purpled for convenience. The first clue is the disparity. It is statistically improbable for a player who makes the merge to have 0 narrative presence for 6 straight episodes. We're told Survivor is a story. But for 6 weeks, production told us Sophie S had no story. Look at this scene from episode 4. The tribe just lost immunity. This is prime strategic time. We get confessionals from player X, player Y, and player Z. But what about Sophie S? What was her plan? Who was she aligned with? The editors deliberately withheld this information. We were fed a curated reality, one in which only one Sophie mattered. This wasn't an accident. This was the setup. They were waiting for the game to shrink, waiting for the casual audience to get comfortable, and waiting for the moment they had to unleash their hidden player. That moment was the merge. Welcome to episode 7, the merge, or as I call it, the great unveiling. This episode is the smoking gun. The game is reset. And with it, the editorial mandate. The 2 Sophie problem is no longer a pre-merge issue. It's a critical post-merge narrative. And suddenly, she appears. Listen to this. This is her first confessional of the entire game. I've been laying low, but now is the time to strike. The edit is literally telling you, we are activating this character now. It's an admission disguised as strategy. But the real proof, the undeniable evidence, comes at the very first individual immunity challenge. It's the classic endurance hold'em challenge. And as players drop, we get to the final 3, Sophie B and Sophie S. This is production's dream scenario. The 2 namesakes head-to-head. Now, listen very carefully to Jeff Probst. For the first time all season, he is aggressively differentiating them. Sophie B drops. We are down to 2, Sophie S and other player. And then, the moment of the win. Sophie S wins individual immunity. Notice the hard emphasis on the S. This is a new instruction. For 6 episodes, it was just Sophie. Now the audience must learn the difference. And what better way to teach them than to crown the hidden Sophie as the first individual immunity winner? It's a perfect narrative package. The underdog we never knew. The Yellow Sophie, as the fans on Reddit immediately dubbed her, referencing her buff color. The fan reaction is the evidence. The R Survivor Live discussion thread exploded. Who is Sophie S? OMG, Yellow Sophie is real. The producers finally gave Sophie S her speaking lines. If the most dedicated fans didn't know who this person was, it's because production didn't want them to. But let's go deeper. It's not just the win, it's what follows the win. In the same episode she wins immunity, Sophie S suddenly receives 4 confessionals. 4, after 0 in the previous 6. We suddenly see her in strategic conversations. We hear her opinion on the vote. We learn about her undercover strategy. This is where the inconsistent edit becomes so glaring. The show is presenting her as a strategic mastermind who is biding her time. But this narrative is completely unsupported by the previous 240 minutes of television we have watched. The theory the show is selling is Sophie S is a brilliant UTR player. The reality is, production needed a narrative for their new immunity winner, so they created one out of thin air. This is a disservice to both players. It robs Sophie B of her unique identity, making her the other Sophie, and it robs Sophie S of her actual journey. What did she do for those first 13 days? Who was she aligned with? Was she really in danger? We will never know. Her entire pre-merge game was sacrificed at the altar of viewer convenience. Let's analyze the function of the edit. The edit is not reality. The edit is a story, and the editors are the authors. They have 400+ hours of footage. They choose what we see. For 6 episodes, they chose to show us nothing. They chose to imply Sophie S was irrelevant. Why? Because showing her and Sophie B was too much work. It was confusing. Look at the visual language. In episode 6, Sophie S is a blur in the background. In episode 7, she is in a crisp, center-frame confessional. The camera avoided her. Now it centers her. The music ignored her. Now she gets the heroic, underdog swell. This is not a subtle shift. This is a complete 180-degree narrative reboot happening mid-season. The producers held her character in reserve. They kept her on the bench until they needed a new hero, or until the other Sophie was voted out. But Sophie S forced their hand. She won. She took the narrative into her own hands, and the editors had to scramble to build a character for her overnight. This isn't just a theory. This is a case study in how Survivor is produced. The reality is secondary to the story. And in Survivor 49, the story was, don't confuse the audience. The result? They hid a merge-making, immunity-winning player from all of us. So what does the case of the 2 Sophies truly mean for the rest of Survivor 49? It means we must watch the show with a new lens. We must accept that the edit is not just a passive observer, it is an active participant. It is the most powerful character in the game. If production was willing to completely erase a player for 6 episodes simple to avoid a name confusion, what else are they hiding? What other storylines are being suppressed because they are inconvenient? The awakening of Sophie S is a crack in the 4th wall. It's a rare moment where we see the producers' hands pulling the strings. They needed us to root for Sophie S in episode 7, but they had given us no reason to. So they manufactured one. This makes her story more compelling, not less. She is not just battling the other players, she is battling her own edit. She had to win immunity just to get on camera. The fan community has rallied behind her, not just as a player, but as a symbol. A symbol of every purpled player. A symbol of how flawed the Survivor storytelling process can be. As you watch the rest of this season, don't just ask, who is playing the best game? Ask, what story are the editors telling me? Whose edit just changed overnight? And why? The rise of Yellow Sophie proved one thing. The most important challenge in Survivor isn't fire making, it's beating the edit.